For centuries, whispers of a prophecy have echoed through time, a prophecy foretold by the ancient prophet Daniel, speaking of signs and wonders in the end times. Now, a new chapter may be unfolding. Is the stage being set? Are the pieces falling into place? Prepare to delve into a mystery that spans millennia, a mystery that might just stretch into the lives of our children and perhaps even their children. Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're not just talking about old books. We're diving into something that feels incredibly relevant, something that people have been pondering for generations, biblical prophecy, specifically the book of Daniel, and what it might mean for our world today, and potentially for the world our grandchildren will inherit. The title, The High Priest of Israel, Is Daniel's Prophecy Unfolding?, isn't just a headline. It's a question that has echoed through history, and we're going to explore it carefully and thoughtfully, keeping in mind that this isn't a quick answer kind of topic. To really get a handle on this, we need to go back a bit, to the book of Daniel itself. These prophecies, written down thousands of years ago, aren't just vague predictions. They're incredibly detailed, talking about specific empires, the Babylonian, the Persian, the Greek, the Roman, and their rise and fall. Think of Daniel chapter 2, with Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the statue. It's a powerful image that many scholars, like those at the Biblical Archaeology Society, see as a symbolic timeline of these ancient powers. Then you've got the 70 weeks prophecy in Daniel 9, which is super intricate. It lays out a timeline that many believe points to the coming of the Messiah and future events. A timeline that has been debated and analyzed by theologians for centuries, as you can see in works by figures like Sir Robert Anderson in his book, The Coming Prince. Now, within this prophetic context, the figure of the high priest in ancient Israel was absolutely central. He wasn't just a regular religious leader, he was the religious figure. He was in charge of the most sacred rituals, the one who could enter the Holy of Holies on the Day of Atonement, a powerful symbol of reconciliation between God and humanity, as described in Leviticus 16. As resources like the Jewish virtual library detail, the high priest held a unique position of spiritual authority and lineage. This office, though, tragically ended with the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD by the Romans. For nearly 2 millennia, this central figure has been absent from Jewish religious life. Fast forward to our time, to the modern state of Israel. Something fascinating has been happening. Within certain segments of Israeli society, there's been a growing movement advocating for the rebuilding of the temple and the restoration of its ancient priesthood. This isn't just a fringe idea. Organizations like the Temple Institute in Jerusalem have been actively researching and even preparing the ritual garments and implements needed for temple service. You can see their work documented on their official website, the Temple Institute. They've even been training individuals for potential priestly duties. While there isn't a universally recognized functioning high priest in the traditional hereditary sense right now, the desire and the groundwork are undeniably present. This begs the question, what could this modern-day preparation signify in the context of Daniel's ancient prophecies? Could this be a development that will continue to unfold in the coming years, perhaps even decades? The connection between a potential future high priest and Daniel's prophecies is, understandably, a major point of discussion and debate among religious scholars and theologians. Some interpretations, particularly within futurist eschatology, see the re-establishment of temple worship, possibly led by a high priest, as a significant precursor to events described in Daniel, such as the abomination of desolation, mentioned in Daniel 9:27, and the intense period of tribulation. Think about the scholarly debate surrounding the meaning of these passages, as discussed in theological commentaries by figures like John Walvoord or Robert Thomas. Other viewpoints, like preterism, see these prophecies as largely fulfilled in the 1st century AD. The key here is that these interpretations aren't static. They've been discussed and re-evaluated by each generation in light of their own historical context. Could our generation be witnessing something that future generations will look back on as a pivotal moment? If the idea of a ready high priest does indeed have significance in relation to Daniel's prophecy, what are some potential future scenarios we might consider, not as definitive predictions, but as possibilities to ponder for ourselves and perhaps for our children? It could signify a major shift in the religious and political dynamics of the Middle East. The Temple Mount is already a deeply contested and sensitive site, and any significant moves towards re-establishing temple worship could have far-reaching geopolitical consequences that could shape the world our children inherit. We might see increased tensions, new alliances, and perhaps even conflicts centered around these religious sites. For those who hold to a literal interpretation of certain prophecies, this could be seen as a tangible step towards events described in Scripture, events that could unfold over years, perhaps even decades, impacting not just this generation, but the next. At this point, it's absolutely crucial to emphasize the need for wisdom and discernment, not just for us, but as a principle to pass on to future generations. Prophecy is complex, layered, and often open to multiple interpretations throughout history. While it's undeniably fascinating to observe potential connections between current events and ancient texts, we must resist the urge to make definitive pronouncements or engage in fear-mongering. The specific timeline and details of biblical prophecy are ultimately known only to God. It's vital for us, and for those who come after us, to rely on credible sources, to engage in thoughtful and prayerful study, and to maintain a spirit of humility when discussing these profound topics. Sensationalism and unsubstantiated claims can be misleading and even harmful, potentially creating unnecessary division and anxiety for ourselves and future generations. To truly understand the complexities here, we need to acknowledge the diverse range of perspectives, not just within our own time, but also across different faith traditions and scholarly disciplines. Jewish interpretations of their own messianic expectations and the role of a future temple and priesthood may differ significantly from Christian eschatological viewpoints. Even within Christianity, there's a wide spectrum of beliefs about the timing and nature of end times events, as evidenced by the vast amount of theological literature available. Engaging with these different perspectives, perhaps through interfaith dialogue and respectful academic inquiry, enriches our understanding and helps us avoid making simplistic or generalized conclusions that might not hold true for everyone or even for future generations as their understanding evolves. So, is the readiness of a high priest a definitive sign that Daniel's prophecy has begun? The answer, honestly, is that it's a complex question with no easy answers. What we can say is that the discussions surrounding this topic are significant. The ongoing efforts in Israel to prepare for temple worship and the potential reemergence of a high priest are developments that warrant our attention and thoughtful consideration. They serve as a powerful reminder of the enduring nature of prophetic texts and the deep-seated hopes and beliefs that continue to shape the world for people of faith across generations. As we navigate our present, we do so with an awareness of these ancient words, and we leave the interpretation and unfolding of these prophecies to the passage of time and the wisdom of future generations as well. Now, as we wrap up this initial exploration, it's vital to remember that prophecy often unfolds over vast stretches of time. What we are witnessing today might be the planting of seeds, the initial stirrings of events that will only come to full fruition in the generations to come. Think about how the early followers of Jesus grappled with Old Testament prophecies, trying to understand their fulfillment in their own time, often with incomplete understanding that later generations would build upon. Similarly, our current interpretations of Daniel's prophecies, particularly concerning a high priest and the temple, might be just the beginning of a much longer narrative. Perhaps the readiness we see today is not the final fulfillment, but a necessary step in a process that extends beyond our own lifetimes. The Temple Mount in Jerusalem remains a central and often volatile focal point in this discussion. For Jews, it's the holiest site, the location of the first and second temples. For Muslims, it houses the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam. This intersection of deeply held religious significance makes any potential changes or developments on the Temple Mount a flashpoint with global implications that will undoubtedly continue to shape the political and religious landscape for future generations. Archaeological findings around the Temple Mount, such as those documented by scholars like Dr. Eilat Mazar, offer glimpses into its rich and complex history, reminding us that this site has been at the heart of religious and political tensions for millennia, a pattern that seems likely to continue. One element that distinguishes our era from previous generations grappling with these prophecies is the unprecedented level of technology and global interconnectedness. News and information about events in Israel, including any developments related to the priesthood or the Temple Mount, travel across the globe in an instant. The rise of social media and online platforms allows for immediate discussion and the formation of global opinions, something the prophets of old could scarcely have imagined. This interconnectedness could accelerate the impact and understanding of any perceived fulfillment of prophecy, creating a global awareness and response that will shape the context in which future generations interpret these events. Despite the complexities and uncertainties surrounding the interpretation of Daniel's prophecies, what remains constant for many is the enduring hope and expectation for the future. For some, this hope centers on the coming of the Messiah and the establishment of a lasting peace. For others, it involves the restoration of ancient traditions and a renewed connection to their spiritual heritage. This hope, passed down through generations, continues to fuel the discussions and the anticipation surrounding events in Israel. It's a hope that transcends political boundaries and cultural differences, uniting people across the globe in their shared anticipation of what the future holds. As we consider the possibility that Daniel's prophecy has begun to unfold, it places a responsibility on us to educate future generations about these complex issues with nuance and respect. It's crucial to teach them critical thinking skills, to encourage them to seek out diverse perspectives, and to approach these sensitive topics with humility and a commitment to understanding. We need to equip them to engage in respectful dialogue with people of different faiths and to navigate the potential complexities of a world where ancient prophecies might be seen as intersecting with modern events. Ultimately, regardless of our specific interpretations of prophecy, there's a sense for many that there's an unseen hand guiding the course of history. This belief, whether rooted in religious faith or a more general sense of a larger purpose, provides comfort and meaning across generations. It suggests that even amidst uncertainty and potential turmoil, there is a plan unfolding, a narrative that extends far beyond our individual lives and our current understanding. This sense of trust and faith is a legacy we can pass on, a foundation for navigating the future, whatever it may hold. The search for meaning in ancient texts and their potential relevance to our modern world is a journey that continues across generations. Each era brings its own context, its own challenges, and its own interpretations. The question of whether the high priest of Israel being ready signifies the beginning of Daniel's prophecy is not a question with a simple answer, and it's a question that future scholars, theologians, and individuals will continue to grapple with. Our role is to engage with the topic thoughtfully, to share our perspectives respectfully, and to encourage an ongoing dialogue that extends beyond our own time. As we conclude this extended exploration, let's consider the legacy we want to leave for those who come after us. Do we want to pass on fear and certainty, or curiosity and a commitment to understanding? Perhaps the most valuable contribution we can make is to foster a spirit of open inquiry, encouraging future generations to study these texts, to observe the world around them with discernment, and to engage in respectful dialogue with those who hold different views. The unfolding of prophecy, if indeed that is what we are witnessing, is a story that will continue to be written, and our descendants will be among its readers and interpreters. This discussion in many ways is just the beginning. There are countless layers to Daniel's prophecies, to the history of the high priesthood, and to the complex realities of the modern Middle East. I encourage you to continue your own exploration of these topics, to delve into the research I've mentioned and beyond, and to form your own informed opinions. Share resources and insights with others, and let's build a community of thoughtful inquiry that spans generations. Thank you for joining me on this deeper dive into Daniel's prophecy and its potential implications, not just for today, but for the generations to come. What are your thoughts as we look towards the future? What questions does this raise for you about the world your children and grandchildren will inherit? Share your perspectives in the comments below, and let's cultivate a conversation that grows and evolves over time. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more in-depth discussions, and hit the notification bell to stay connected. Let's continue to learn together, to question thoughtfully, and to build a legacy of understanding for the future. I'll see you in our next exploration.